Over the past 2 years, I have applied this one habit that has changed the trajectory of my life after the military. And all it takes is about 5 minutes a day. Before I show you this habit, I want to go through the problems that I've once faced after the military, especially, and why this is so relevant to just pretty much anyone else outside of the military or otherwise. When I was coming out of the military, I was feeling lost with no clear direction or mission. I basically had my identity shaped throughout the military. In the uniform, I had a purpose, I had a mission, I had a drive, I had a motivation to actually get up in the morning and get things done. But that's when I attached my identity to it. That was my life. And when I left the military, I just felt like that was stripped away from me and I lost that sense of purpose, fulfillment, and meaning that I ended up isolating myself from the entire world. To just lock myself in my own bedroom for 16 plus hours a day when I didn't have anything else to do. And I didn't really have much of anyone to talk to. I didn't really have great relationships at the time. I didn't really talk to my Marine buddies that well after leaving. I didn't really stay connected with them. And that was my own fault. But I just felt like I didn't have anyone to reach out to. And that was a dangerous path for me. Because of this, I ended up bottling up a lot of my own thoughts and emotions. I just suppressed everything down. And that's how I lived my day to day life afterwards. So mentally, I was in a very dark place because of this isolation, because of this loneliness. Because of this, I needed to have certain habits and things in my life to be able to get me out of that. So, this one habit is, I consider, something that was very impactful in my life, and it was journaling. And I just started a simple daily journaling habit. And so this was back in 2023. I literally have an entry in the very first day of me starting this journaling journey. And it was on 2023 it was June 30th of 2023. And this is exactly what I wrote down. This is the day I have decided to mentally work toward my life goals, all of which I want to contribute towards my happiness. My thoughts, desires, and dreams shall be noted within. Funny enough, doing this as a 25-year-old former Marine feels strange. However, this shouldn't matter. I have this short life to live, especially while I'm still young and healthy. I have no excuse. My happiness is the most important thing I can have, and which I should not let others take away. I can choose how I want to live, and this is my first step. So that was my first entry, and we could talk so many things about like happiness and things like that, but that was where I was at the time, and I probably don't agree with everything. I definitely don't agree with like most of the things that I've done throughout this practice, but that was where I was at. That was my first step, and I wanted to be more consistent in showing up for myself and just writing things out, documenting just my thought process. Obviously, even when I started this habit, I was still kind of in a dark spot. I was lonely, I was isolated, I didn't really feel happy and fulfilled in my life. But it really made me think about my thoughts, right? Just putting some things down on paper, and it didn't take much time at all. This took maybe a few minutes out of my day, and I'm now reflecting back on this after years. It really makes me think of like all my other thought processes. And there was another thing here. This is later on. I wrote down things that I thought would bring me greater happiness. I listed music, picking back up the guitar again. I've actually picked up my guitar this year. Back in the day, I just didn't pick it up. I wrote it down, but it wasn't serious about it. But now I've been picking up the guitar, um, and it has led me to some sort of happiness. But I also labeled some other things like fitness. I said tattoos. I wanted to have a full sleeve at the time. I wanted to travel more, one accepting my body and getting out more, job satisfaction, things like that. So there were some things that there might be some ingredients to, but ultimately I I felt like I missed the mark now. Well, looking back at it, I just felt like I missed the mark on some things, but again, that was where I was at the time, and just really reflecting on what my thought processes were and almost seeing it as an evolution of my mind, right? I what I see now, my whole worldview, my whole paradigm of the world, and how I show up in the world or in my life, for my business, for my life, for my relationships, for my family, for my spiritual life, for everything. It all comes down with the thoughts, right? What you sow is what you reap. If you sow a thought, you reap an action. If you sow an action, you reap a habit. If you sow a habit, you reap a character. You sow a character, you reap a destiny. You probably have heard of that before. So it all starts in the thoughts. So I think an important thing is when you have these thoughts, just write them down and understand like you don't have to agree with them. But if you're suppressing your thoughts, once you understand your thoughts more, you need to see it for what they are. Like what I've shown you and written down, this is just like almost surface level. This is kind of surface level. But a lot of these, which I haven't gone through, and there is a lot of entries that I've done, I go pretty deep, and it's shown me how negative I really was in my life, how much I belittled myself, how much I judged myself, and if I didn't achieve certain things, then I attached my identity to it. My thought process is just so much different than what it was. One thing I do suggest, even though if you are watching this right now and you might not be in the right headspace right now, that's completely okay. Just write out your thoughts. Write for 5 minutes. Have a journal, a notebook, a piece of paper, whatever it is. Have it on your nightstand in your bed. Have it on your desk. Have it easy to access. If you don't want to spend more than even a minute or 2 minutes, that's completely fine. If all it takes is one sentence or a few words to get out, that's fine too. But I honestly think being consistent with writing and journaling and putting out your thoughts on paper is really going to see what your thoughts really are, where they're coming from, and how you can assess where your thought processes go later on in your life. It's not something that's going to be like an overnight fix. Of course, this is not a quick fix or a hack solution. This is definitely wasn't a quick fix or a hack because I've done this for 2 years, and now recently I've been able to see the fruits of my labor, the fruits of my thoughts, the fruits of my actions, because I've been able to see what my thoughts really were on paper, visually, and understand them for what they were and how I could reassess my thoughts for later on. Eventually, your thoughts and emotions are going to come up in places that you don't want. And they're going to show up in places, in situations that you don't want to be in. And it's not going to end well for you or anyone around you, especially if you have a relationship, if you have a mother or father, if you have a husband, if you have or a wife, if you have kids, and you're suppressing your thoughts and emotions, and you're not writing things down, then they're going to show up in places that you don't want for you and for them. And it's not going to be pretty. Do yourself a favor. If you haven't picked up a journaling habit right now, this could very well change the trajectory of your life because it has changed mine. That's my experience. I mean, some people might say differently, but I genuinely believe, and from what I've been seeing, I'm an experienced writer. I've done content writing for some time as well. I love writing. I know millions of people swear by it too. Just writing and journaling. It's such a good foundational habit to pick up, and it could change your life. Not overnight. This is not a hack or quick fix. And there's no quick shortcuts in life. I'm going to tell you this right now. There's nothing in this life that's a shortcut, that's going to be a quick fix, that is going to genuinely change your life for the better in the long term. Doing the work, doing what is foundational, going through just the fundamental basics. And I believe this is a foundational skill to pick up. Just writing things down, journaling, putting your thoughts out on paper. Because we as humans, we are able to communicate. We have this gift of communication that no other animal in this world can do like we can. They can't communicate like we can. And we can write. We can use a skill to communicate. And if it's not for others, we could still do it for ourselves. If you are a veteran, first responder, anyone who has come out of the service like I do have spent 10 spots open to work with me one-on-one to rebuild discipline in your life so you could show up better in your personal and professional life. If that does sound great to you, there's a link to apply in the description below. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Please like and subscribe. Share this with a friend for those who need to actually pick up something, pick up any sort of good habit, foundational habit in their lives. And I'll talk to you soon. Semper Fi.